Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling the power of thought.
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll be looking at everything from Earl Nightingale's classic, The Strangest Secret,
A classic for sure.
to, some intriguing videos on, like, pain and purpose. And we'll even try to wrap our heads around, Terrence Howard's unique theories.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And we'll round things out with Florence Scovel-Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Quite a mix. Should be interesting.
Yeah, the goal here is to really see what all these different sources have to say about how our thoughts shape our reality. And, maybe find some actionable insights along the way.
I think one of the most fascinating things is how this idea of thought's power pops up across so many different thinkers and time periods.
You're absolutely right. It's like this theme that keeps echoing throughout history, like with Earl Nightingale and his famous line, "We become what we think about." I mean, yeah, we've all heard that before.
Right.
But it's the AOE that gets me. He actually dives into the psychological mechanics of it.
Totally. He talks about the subconscious mind acting like a garden. Whatever seeds we plant, the thoughts, they're going to grow.
Oh, I love that analogy. And he uses some pretty vivid stories to illustrate it. There's one about a real estate salesman who totally transformed his career. And it all started because he changed his self-talk.
Oh, yeah. He shifted his focus, right? Instead of dwelling on the fear of rejection.
Exactly. He started focusing on the value he was bringing to his clients.
And boom, sales skyrocketed.
It's crazy how much our beliefs, even the ones we don't realize we have, can influence our actions.
Absolutely. And then there's Nightingale's 30-day challenge.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever tried that?
I have. It's pretty powerful stuff. It's that whole thing of focusing on a goal, thinking about it positively, and taking steps every single day.
For 30 days straight.
For 30 days. It really does build momentum, but as Nightingale says, it's about paying the price.
I like that phrase, paying the price. It reminds us that, thoughts alone aren't enough.
Right. You got to put in the work. Thoughts and actions need to be aligned.
Aligning with reality. Which kind of brings us to our next source, this video called How Pain Leads to Knowledge and Power. I mean, it's a pretty interesting take, right? They're saying that pain can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Right. It's about what we do with the pain, not just trying to avoid it or numb it.
Which is what we usually try to do.
Of course. But this video is all about transmuting that suffering, finding the lesson in each experience, whether it's physical or emotional pain.
Okay, but, we're so conditioned to see pain as a negative thing.
It's natural, but think of it like this. It's in those tough moments, in the crucible of pain, that we really grow.
The crucible of pain.
Yeah, it's like when we face a challenge, an injury, a breakup, whatever it is, that forces us to dig deep, to find the strength to overcome it.
So it's not about, going out and seeking pain.
No, of course not. It's about learning from the inevitable pain that life throws our way.
Which brings us to, sources that kind of contradict that idea. We've got Jordan Peterson saying purpose comes from responsibility, like having kids. And let's be real, kids can bring a lot of pain.
True. Peterson's perspective highlights the tension between comfort and growth, wanting things to be easy and the need for challenge.
And then we've got Alan Watts, who just throws that whole duty thing out the window. He's all about living in the moment. Spontaneity, just having fun.
Watts reminds us that there's joy in just being alive. He compares it to a plant growing, effortlessly unfolding its potential.
Such a cool image. It's like work doesn't have to feel like a chore. It could be play. But how do these ideas work together? Responsibility and play.
Maybe it's about finding the balance, approaching our responsibilities playfully, and finding moments of joy even in the tough stuff.
All right, you ready for a real head scratcher? Terrence Howard.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, buckle up. Now, I'm going into this with, some healthy skepticism, but I am curious. I mean, this guy's making some bold claims, like 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1.
He's challenging the very basics of math.
He's saying that the way we understand multiplication is too simplistic. And he even takes on pi.
It's definitely unconventional. But, maybe there's something to it.
And then there's his whole theory about matter being motion.
A cosmic dance of energy.
Yeah, exactly. And he brings in the flower of life, this ancient symbol, and says, we've misinterpreted its meaning.
It's wild stuff. But you know what? I appreciate that he's pushing the boundaries, thinking outside the box, even if it gets him ridiculed.
It's true. He forces us to reconsider our own assumptions about reality. Who knows, maybe there's more to the universe than we currently understand.
Maybe so.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a bit. In part 2, we're going to dive into Florence Scovel-Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's all about using the power of thought to create real-world results. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so we've gone from the nuts and bolts of how thought works with Earl Nightingale to some pretty out there stuff with Terrence Howard.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
It has. So now I think it's time for some practical application.
Let's get down to brass tacks.
Right, let's see how we can actually use this power of thought stuff. So Florence Scovel Shinn and her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. What do you think?
You know, what I love about Shinn is she takes these big kind of abstract ideas and makes them really tangible.
Totally. She's got all these amazing stories in there. Like that one about the woman who kept saying she wanted to live in a trunk.
Oh, yeah.
And then guess what? He ends up in this tiny, cramped apartment that felt exactly like a trunk.
Talk about manifesting your reality.
Right. It's like, be careful what you wish for, even if you're joking.
Exactly. Shinn says our subconscious mind, it doesn't really know the difference.
Oh, that's a good point. And then there's the story about the woman who was expecting a delivery of lilies, but she got a rose tree instead.
That's right.
And it turns out she had been like vividly picturing a rose tree in her mind. And somehow the florist messed up the order.
Some might call it coincidence, but Shinn would say it's the subconscious mind at work.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder about all the things we're putting out there, right? Even the stuff we don't realize.
Definitely makes you think.
Shinn also talks a lot about forgiveness and non-resistance and the power of words to literally change our reality.
Powerful stuff.
She talks about casting our burdens on the Christ within, which I kind of interpret that as like tapping into a higher power or our own, inner wisdom.
It's about surrendering our worries and fears, trusting that something bigger than ourselves is there to support us.
Yeah, exactly. And, speaking of releasing resistance, one of the videos we watched, The Power of Silence, it really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's like silence isn't just the absence of sound.
Right.
It's a tool for connecting with something deeper within ourselves.
Yeah, it's about quieting that mental chatter, becoming aware of the thoughts and emotions that are always there, but we usually don't notice.
And the video suggests that, by practicing silence, we become more aware of the energy behind our words and our actions.
We can start to choose our thoughts more consciously, instead of just reacting on autopilot.
So true. Okay, from silence to a topic that a lot of people, they kind of avoid. Death.
It's a big one, for sure.
This video, The Patterns of Life Reveal the Secrets of Death. It presents a really interesting perspective. It's like, what if we could learn from death instead of fearing it?
That's a big shift in thinking.
I know. The video encourages us to see death not as an ending, but as like a natural transition.
A graduation, almost.
Exactly. And by contemplating death, it can actually help us appreciate life more.
That's profound.
The video also suggests that, instead of just mourning the loss of someone, we should celebrate their life.
Focus on the memories.
Yeah. And this is where things get really interesting. The video introduces this concept that, we're all part of a single source, like a universal consciousness, and that we've lived all versions of life.
Whoa.
Right? So death isn't the end. It's just like moving on to a new experience.
Makes you question everything we think we know about life and death.
I know. And this whole idea of tapping into a collective consciousness, it comes up in that other video. This 6,000-year-old secret will change your perspective on life, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe our thoughts aren't just our own.
Right.
Maybe they're part of something much bigger.
It's like we're all connected somehow.
And that maybe, through our thoughts, we can actually break free from some kind of holographic existence and move to a new level of reality.
That's a bold claim.
It is, but kind of exciting too, right? Like we've got this power within us that we haven't even begun to tap into.
And speaking of tapping into something bigger, that last video, what is the meaning of life? I mean, that's the ultimate question, isn't it?
I know.
And in the end, the video suggests that the answer might be pretty simple. It's about gratitude, love, connection, the beauty of being present.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, stop searching for meaning somewhere out there and just appreciate what you have right now.
Exactly. It's all about shifting our focus from seeking to appreciating.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from practical techniques to philosophical mind benders.
It's been quite the journey.
So, dear listener, I want to ask you, what's sticking with you? What's sparking your curiosity? What limiting beliefs might you be carrying around? And how can you use this knowledge to start creating the life you truly desire? Think about it, because in the final part of our deep dive, things are going to get a little strange. We're going into the shadowy corners of the mind.
Waking sleep, buffers, Gurdjieff, and his self-remembering. It's about to get really interesting.
All right, so we're heading into some uncharted territory now. We've talked about the power of thought, But what if, we're not even fully aware of the thoughts running the show?
Yeah, it's like driving a car but not knowing where you're going.
That's a good analogy. And this is where the idea of waking sleep comes in, right?
Exactly. It's from that video where stuck in a looped reality, Gurdjieff proof was silenced by the FBI. No BS.
Oh, man, that title, I know. It's a mouthful. But it definitely grabbed my attention. So what is this waking sleep thing all about?
It's like we're going through life on autopilot, reacting to things based on, old habits and programming, not really consciously choosing.
It reminds me of that movie, The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Truman's whole life is this fabricated reality, and he has no clue. Kind of creepy to think we might be, similarly trapped in some way.
The video makes that connection, but the good news is we can wake up, and that's where Gurdjieff comes in.
Gurdjieff. Okay, now his teachings were pretty intense?
Intense but insightful. He believed that most people are, well, asleep to their true potential.
And he talked about self-remembering as a way to wake up. What's that exactly?
It's like mindfulness, but it goes deeper. It's not just noticing your thoughts, but remembering your true self, your essence.
So creating that separation between, who you are at your core and the thoughts and emotions that are just, passing through.
Exactly. You are not your thoughts. That's a key idea here.
And Gurdjieff thought this self-remembering, it could help us break free from those, repetitive patterns that keep us stuck.
Yeah, he was all about breaking free from limitations.
Now, the video also mentions these things called buffers.
Ah, yes, buffer.
Some kind of mental shield.
Yeah, think of them as defense mechanisms, ways we protect ourselves from stuff that feels uncomfortable. Thoughts, emotions, realizations.
Okay, so can you give me an example, like how a buffer might show up in everyday life?
Sure, imagine someone who's always making excuses for their behavior, blaming others, never taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Those excuses, they're buffers, protecting the ego from, the pain of admitting they're messed up.
So buffers can be helpful sometimes.
Of course, we all need them to some extent.
But if we rely on them too much,
they can keep us stick, prevent us from facing the truth about ourselves. And that's what Gurdjieff wanted to shake people out of.
He even had this thing called the stop exercise.
Right. You just randomly freeze, stop all movement, thoughts, everything, and that would often reveal those hidden buffers.
Whoa. I can see how that would be powerful. It's like hitting the pause button on your life.
Exactly. A way to become more present. And, the fact that the AAI supposedly kept tabs on Gurdjieff.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
It tells you something about how radical his ideas were.
So I guess the big question is, what does all this mean for us? The everyday people trying to make sense of life.
Well, I think the takeaway is we have so much more power than we realize to shape our reality. But we need to become aware of the thoughts and beliefs that are driving us.
And we've seen that from so many angles, right? From those practical steps and the strangest secret to
the philosophical stuff.
Yeah, like Alan Watts talking about living in the moment, and even, Terrence Howard's crazy theories.
He makes you think, that's for sure.
He does. But I think the message is clear. Our thoughts matter. They have a real impact on our lives.
They shape our experience of the world. And by learning to master our minds, we can start to create the lives we want.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you for joining us. We've explored some really profound ideas about the power of thought, and I hope you've walked away with, some insights, some new perspectives, and maybe even a little bit of hope. Because remember, the power to create the life you desire, it's within you. You just got to choose to wake up and use it.